Hello again. It's been a while since we've been out here. You'll have guessed by now that this is not the River Tay where I had expected to be this week, but you know, after months of drought we had a week or so of thunderstorms and floods and torrential rain, so I had to cancel that, which was a pisser because I'd paid for it. You know, I'd bought myself a day, well 2 days guided salmon fishing, and I had got a trout ticket for a couple of days just to go out, you know, the little 4-weight here and have a couple of days targeting the brown trout, but that all got cancelled. I'll get my money back and all, but it's still a pain in the arse because it was the last time this year I think I was going to have a chance to do that. So here we are back on the Almond. As you can see, the water's got a lot of colour in it, so I don't expect to catch anything today. I saw 1 or 2 fish come up to the surface. I've had to walk a fair bit up the river. I guess most of you will be aware that the head of the English monarchy has died, and she passed in Scotland, so they're driving her body down into Edinburgh to Holyrood Palace, and they're coming down through Cramond where I am today, and there's a lot of people, hundreds and hundreds of people in fact, have all lined the road, so there's crowds down there, people that got here like hours early and things, so it's just cops everywhere and security everywhere and guys talking into their lapels, you know, so I'm staying well out of their way, and I'm going to just work my way up the river and see if there's a bit where it's moves a little faster and it's not quite so coloured, but I'll have a few casts out anyway and see if I can catch anything, and we'll just, you know, I'll just do my usual chatting away at the camera as if anybody's listening. So I'll go up to my favourite pool. Then there's a couple of places I haven't caught a fish this year, and my plan for this season was to fish the pools where I hadn't caught before, and there's a couple of them, but I don't know if it's going to be doable today. But you know, as I said to Wild Fisher just the other day, we have to put the hard miles in, otherwise we won't learn anything. So I'm going to go up maybe 100 yards or so. My favourite Sean Connery impression, my only Sean Connery impression. Just going to go up into that little eddy there and let my fly drift down. I've got a daddy long legs on today, just where is it? There it is. Something kind of big. Let's just see if it makes a big enough silhouette that the fish can see it through the murk. I mean, the water's never as dirty as it looks. If you took a glass of that water out, it would be quite clear, but to us it looks really murky. But so I don't know. So there's loads of people all milling around. I say they got here too early and they're wandering around bored, and I'm going to have to ask them politely not to throw stones in while I'm fishing. So if I catch anything, I'll let you know in between here and the cliff. If not, I'll see you at the cliff. Well, as expected, most of the water down there is unfishable. I simply can't get into it. It's too high and it's too coloured, and I can't see where I'm going. And if you can see here how high the floodwaters came up. It's, you know, so riverbeds that I knew quite well have completely changed. You know, some of the big rocks have gone. There's logs in their place. So I decided not to bother. I'll just walk up here as I talk. I decided not to bother to fish in there because it's too dangerous, and it's unlikely that I was going to catch anything there anyway. So I'm moving up to the big pool and the cliff, although again it's changed since it was last year quite dramatically. See how much damage has been done, because there was a big dam there, a natural dam of logs and things. It's been there for a few years, and I think that's probably it down there now. It's been completely washed away and destroyed, and there's another tree here that wasn't here a week ago. So I mean, I don't expect the fish care too much. They'll be used to their environment changing, but it just makes it difficult for me because now I don't know where's safe to go in the water and where the fish might be lying, because the previous lies may have been washed away. So I suppose that's the point, isn't it? We don't want to go out and do the same thing over and over again. Well, I suppose we do to a degree, don't we? I am aware of that I don't want to make the same video you know, 4 or 5 times in a row where it's me going out on the river fishing and talking, but that's what we do, isn't it? You know, it's where we find our peace, and it's where we find those few moments to ourselves. But I'm aware that it can be, you know, a little boring, I suppose, for people. If like, oh, there he is out doing the same thing again. But I suppose if you're fishing, and unless you're, you know, one of the dude bros or whatever who's got a boat and a helicopter and all that crap, you're doing the same thing most of the time. I had plans for this season, as I say. I'm going to have a few casts along here just as while I'm chatting. I had plans for this season to visit various different rivers and things, but unfortunately the droughts put paid to that because it simply wasn't worth it, and some of the places I had wanted to go fishing had closed their books to protect what little fish stocks there were. You know, when the water's 5 inches deep, you're not going to get many salmon running or sea trout, so they get caught in the estuary where the seals and other predators can just pick them off at will. So you have to protect what can make it up the system, which is fair enough. You know, a big part of fishing is, you know, conservation, whether we're aware of it or not. You know, your catch returns and the money you pay for your tickets all go towards the upkeep and the conservation of the river and its fish. And I've caught my mainline there. So, you know, it was a disappointment, but I understand that why it had to be done. And I was a little disappointed that some of the bigger rivers, like the Dee especially, kept their books open even when the river was so low that there was very little chance of catching a fish on it. But they need that tourist money coming in. Oh, now I've got my line all tangled up. What the fuck have I done here? There we are. But you know, they know better than I do about their own bloody river, I suppose. Oops. And I know I can never pronounce the name properly, there's too many S's in it. Cornish Krish the fish. I mean, he went away up there and he almost caught one. I got so excited for him after, like, you know, a few blanks. You know, he finally hooked into what looked like quite a good fish by the bend in his rod, and it got off, and it was like, damn, that's a damn shame. But you know, that's salmon fishing for you. And I don't there's not many salmon rivers around here that are easy accessible, so I haven't been salmon fishing properly for a couple of years. I do take the salmon rod out on this river from time to time, and if you see my video called Pay Attention, I managed to almost hook one for a second, but I pulled the bloody fly right out of its mouth and I've caught myself now. So yeah, I'm just going to stop this right now because I've got no back cast here, and now I've caught my own sleeve. Yeah, see, it's just the same thing over and over again, me pretending I know what I'm doing and making an arse of it. So I'm going to move up further up the river, up past the cliff here. As you can see, that tree there is just completely blocking that, so there's no way I'm going to be able to get a cast in. So I'll catch up with you up by the steps at the water monitoring station. We've all been there before, so you know where it is. So it's a bit of a trudge, and I'll probably have to change my battery before I can get there. I bought a cheap knockoff battery from China, and it does about 10 bloody minutes before it runs out. It's a piece of shit. So I'll just see you up there. Well, I'm a wee bit further up the river. I've been in this pool a few times. This pool and I have a long and unhappy history. It's hard to catch the fish in this pool because it's so slow. The fish get a good look at your lure, and it's not uncommon for some of the fish on this stretch of the river, when you cast your fly in, to come downstream and come up and sit parallel with you and look at you, and then go back upstream. So I think they've been caught one time too many in the past, and now they're really suspicious. So it's hard to catch these fish and the fish up around this bit. Although I have caught a few, but I've fallen in here, I've slipped and torn my waders. I had to buy new waders just a couple of weeks ago, and new wading boots and everything, because the waders I bought were stocking foot and blah blah blah. So they're good and everything, but it's money I didn't want to have to spend. So I always have a few casts at this pool as I pass by it, but I don't really expect to catch anything. Especially not today. Although maybe there's less chance of them seeing me first. So I think tomorrow, hopefully tomorrow, maybe the day after, it's Sunday today, I might go down to the bottom pool and have a bash at some sea trout, because it's almost well, there's a month left to the end of the brown trout season, and then we've got a couple of weeks to fish for salmon and sea trout at the end of that. And I usually do quite well at the end of the season with the sea trout. I've had a few good ones last year. I had a really good one the beginning of this year. So if the water stays at this level, more or less, but it cleans up, you know, it's a little bit clearer, I suppose, and maybe have a go there. So I'm just watching up and down these pools. I've been here like 5 minutes before I started casting and filming, just to see if there was anything rising, but not a thing. I've not seen any insect life on the water at all, and that's I suppose it's not unusual for this time of year, but it's a wee bit worrying. So, well, as far as, you know, it's worrying as far as dry fly fishing goes. Dry flying, behave yourself. Yes, I'm going dry flying today. But I'll work my way up around the bend here. Isn't that a Creedence Clearwater song? I'm going to work my way up to the top of the beat here, up by the airport. It's very noisy. I don't know if you really hear that. I think there's aircraft just sitting idle with their engines running and taxiing around for whatever reason, I don't know. And yes, it's this constant drone in the background, much like my own voice. So I think today might be a one and done day. You know, if I'll go up a ways, and if I catch one fish, I'll probably call that good. That's been a successful day, and then I'll move on. Go back home. But I'm not sure when this procession goes past for the Queen's body going down to Holyrood. So I might find myself going back down and then get stuck in traffic for bloody ages, because there's hundreds and hundreds of people all lining the streets. So I think I'll go up here, you know, maybe spend another couple of hours just till I'm sure it's gone past and it's no longer a... what's the word I'm looking for? Well, I can get past it, I suppose. I don't want to be disrespectful, you know what I mean? It's, you know, it's a funeral procession or whatever it is, you know. But there are logistical issues to deal with at the same time. So I'm going to move up to the steps, as I said before, and see what it's like there. I usually do quite well in there, you know. I caught a couple of good ones just the other week there. It's been about 3 weeks since I've been on the river here, but I caught a couple of decent fish up that way. I didn't bring my camera, just one of those days where I wanted to just have a day's fishing and not have to worry about, you know, battery life and camera angles and stuff. So I should have now in hindsight, because it was the last time I got a chance to fish the river when it was worth fishing. So aye, I'll catch up with you later on. Right, so I finally made it to the pool I was heading towards, and it doesn't look too bad. It is still quite coloured here, but the water's moving faster than it usually is, so it's like a trade-off, you know. It's usually quite clear but slow and low, and today we've got it high but coloured. I haven't seen anything rise in the last few minutes, but that riffle just there coming down looks like a likely spot. There's usually some fish moving around this area regardless of the conditions, so I'll give it a go. There's quite a lot of aircraft going over, quite a lot of military aircraft today. Oh, it's a terrible cast, for fuck's sake. I don't know why, although I'll hazard a guess that there's going to be some kind of fly past or something at some point for the Queen, so it's going to get noisy. I'm afraid they're just going to have to put up with it. I mean, I'm an ex-military man myself, so I know how these things work. And they'll get in days in advance and have everything all top hole and tickety boo before they attempt it for real. So it's just going to have to put up with a little bit of noise. So I only brought the 7-foot rod today because I thought, you know, there's a fairly good chance that the banks are going to be overgrown. I won't be able to get a cast in, but the river's quite wide and I wish I'd brought my 11-foot now, but I suppose I can still cast the width of the river with this little rod. It would just be a lot more convenient if I had the big rod, because I can't get enough line out to weight the rod properly because it's too short, so casting's a bit of an effort. There's another big bloody aeroplane coming over. It's these big bloody twin prop military things. Oh no, I tell a lie, that was a jet. But there's been a few like kind of DC-10 things going over and they're incredibly noisy. Flies so slow as well, so they're noisy for a long time. It just makes it worse. Well, so what my plan for the rest of the season, I think it's going to have to be, just if I get a day here and there where it's not raining or whatever and I have the time, can I try and get out on the river here. But I think the trout part of this season's more or less over, unless it doesn't rain for a couple of days and the sun doesn't come out and, you know, scorch everything again. Trout fishing's more or less done, so I'm going to have to switch to the last month or so, targeting sea trout and any salmon that are coming up down the lower stretches of the river down near the estuary, and the water's hopefully high and cool enough that I might venture out with the pike rod, although I don't think it's late enough in the year. I don't usually start pike fishing until around November, just to be sure the water is cold enough for them and all of that. Linlithgow Loch I was advised against fishing in a couple of weeks ago because there's a big algae bloom on it and there's loads of weeds had grown up and it was just a big snag hazard. So once that dies down, I'll try there. I'm not a fan of paid for fishing in those kind of places like fisheries, but something like £17 for a day to go bank fishing for pike in the shadow of Linlithgow Palace. I mean, you can't really complain, it's worth it just for a day out. So I'll maybe do that, and then I'll get the heavy tackle out and fish the breakwater come the winter for winter cod and pollock. So I've got a few things sort of half planned the way we do. It's all weather dependent and work dependent and so on. But I hope to get more fishing done than I have in the last couple of weeks, or the last couple of months I suppose, because of the dreadful weather. I mean, in Scotland we're absolutely no strangers to bad weather, but this is different, you know. This feels different. This isn't just bad weather, this is the climate's been broken, you know. We've messed it up. I've never seen anything like this in my lifetime. I mean, few people have. So it's just a case of work to the conditions and do what works out best. So there's nothing here, so I'm going to head up towards, well, where you can't see anymore, around that bend. There's a few fish in there that I can target, and I'll probably have to change this battery. What am I at already? I'm at 7%, yeah. The battery's a piece of crap. Do not buy non-GoPro batteries for your GoPro from China, even if they are on Amazon for £10 less. They are absolute crap. So yeah, I'll just bring this cast in, I'll move up, I'll change camera, take a little break, change batteries, have a little break, decide what's best to do, and then see what it's like further up. There are couple of places further up the water's narrower and it moves a little faster, so it might not be as coloured, and we can have a go in there. Okay, I'll see you then. Right, just as I said that, a fish came up just, what's that, 15 feet in front of me, just below that branch there that's hanging down. So I'm going to have a couple of casts over it just to see if it'll take. I don't know what it was taking, I couldn't see. I wasn't looking. What, the aeroplanes again? But yeah, I was just getting out of the water and I heard a splash and I turned round and sure enough a fish had come up, taken something off the surface. I have no idea what. There it is, got it. Oh, is it off? No, I've still got it. No, it's off. No, it is, it's on. It swam towards me, I couldn't tell if that was still on or not. It's just a little one. Obviously hasn't learned its lesson this year. Maybe even the first time it's been caught. Let me see. Let it drift in. There we go. Well, yeah, it's just a little kind of quarter pounder thing. I think I'll start calling them little mackies. Little quarter pounders. That's a terrible pun. I promise I won't do that. So, there you go. A little late season. Where are you? There you are. A little late season brownie. Just a little thing, probably only like a year old. So we'll get them off and then I'll take my break and then we'll come back in a wee bit further up. Maybe go up to the Moby Dick pool, for if you remember from before where I said I was trying to catch that one fish over and over again. But we'll get this in and then we'll see what happens next. Can you hear that? That bloody big heron screeching at me. And there's frightened all the bloody ducks now. God damn it. I was actually coming up to fish this pool at the top here and the little rapid below it. Cause I'm not going to go any further up by the airport, there's no point. It's far too overgrown. But just there, I got just a few seconds of a little kingfisher. Unaware of me, you know, sitting on a perch. Then that bloody heron saw me, jumped up, the kingfisher flew away, it flew away, and all the ducks that were sitting in there flew across there, which is where I was going to cast a line. I've caught fish in there before. I've actually got a video of me catching fish in there before. So I've moved down a wee bit to let things settle, and as I was coming back up, the rest of the bloody ducks flew up and dropped their shite and everything and frightened anything that was in that little pool. The fish tend to sit along the bank there. There we go. I hope you can see that. Oh, it's seen me. There you go. A little otter there. I don't know if the camera's going to have picked that up, but it was swimming down, saw me and just disappeared. Let's go down and see if it pops back up again. I know people really hate these things because, you know, they do eat fish. And if you see an otter in your fishing hole, that's your fishing done for the day. At that spot anyway. But yeah, I think it's most likely it's gone across there. I think it's got its den along there somewhere. Yeah, there it is down there. I can just see it under the surface. Try to hide from me. Yep, see it there? Can you see it? Just along the far bank there. Yeah, that's where its den is. Or at least it's along that bank somewhere, I think. Unless it's a big male and they tend to migrate. So yeah, there you go. No point fishing in here now. I'll just have to move further up. Oh well. I'm just going to take a minute here just to watch these swans. I know they've saw me, but they don't seem particularly bothered. I suppose they're young or big enough now that they're not in any danger, they don't feel threatened by me. Normally, if I got this close to them, I'd get chased off. But they seem quite content. I guess they're used to humans by now, and they're used to being fed by humans. Well, you can bugger off because you're getting nothing off of me. I don't have anything anyway. But yeah, it's not a bad day. So I've seen an otter, a kingfisher, caught a fish, and now we've got the swans coming up to me, probably looking for food. So I'm going to just go, nope, I'm getting chased. There it goes, it wants me gone. Okay, bye then.